What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with some news in the form of This Week at Bungie, and it is a relatively short update that we get today. Bungie jump in and they talk about some updates that they'll be making to matchmaking, or more specifically lobby balancing. They talk very briefly about a small update that we'll be getting next week, and then there are some other things, the Prime Gaming rewards for the month, a couple of minor updates associated with the changes we've seen in the game this week, and some other stuff to round up. So, as always, I hope you guys find this one useful, but now let's get into it. And of course, naturally they speak about the launch of the Proving Ground strike that we had this week, as well as the round of Stasis tuning for the Crucible, and if you missed any of the patch notes for that stuff, it is linked in the TWAB, which I'll put in the description box below. But here they speak about a lobby balancing act, and they say, in June of 2020, we made some changes to remove skill-based matchmaking from all playlists except survival. And since the change, we've been monitoring player feedback, watching data, and getting some hands on the Crucible to see how the game felt with connection-based matchmaking. And a common feedback item has concerned lobby balancing and how we distribute players amongst fire teams within a Crucible match. So they say starting today, we'll be testing out some changes to how players are split between teams once a match has been formed in Iron Banner and Iron Banner freelance playlists. And these changes are expected to be deployed around 10 AM Pacific, so by the time you're reading the TWAB, or by the time this video is out, those changes will be going into the game. And they say to give a simple explanation of the change, our current algorithm tries to make the average skill level even between the teams, but this can lead to lopsided teams depending on the skill range of everyone put into the match. So with the changes being deployed today, we're updating our Crucible lobby balancer to balance teams with a modified algorithm, which can be compared to shoot, yard, pick, or snake draft. And this will attempt to place the best player on Team 1, the second best player on Team 2, the third best player on Team 2, and the fourth best player on Team 1, and so on. And they point out that as a note, we're making no changes to matchmaking. This is simply a change to how players are divided amongst teams once a match has been formed, and we'll be watching feedback over the weekend to see how players are feeling about the change in Iron Banner, and we have plans to expand this into more playlists with changes once they've been verified with positive effects. So that's an interesting one, and it's an element that isn't necessarily spoken about as much as skill-based matchmaking, but of course, it can play a pretty significant part in how games end up playing out. So let us know what you think about that, and give us any of your experiences with it in the game now that it's actually going live down in the comments section. Up next though, they point out that next week we'll be getting hotfix 3.1.1.2, so this will be on Thursday, April 1st at the daily reset. They say maintenance windows and expected downtime will be posted later on, but they say for a small list of the issues being addressed, the Insight Terminus Nightfall Triumph will now correctly award when the score requirement is reached. The Lost Sector puzzles for Xenophage Quest will now work as intended, and heavy ammo will no longer spawn underneath the Distant Shore Crucible map. So it sounds like some kind of minor updates and fixes to the game right there. But of course next week, we can expect to see the full patch notes. And they say for the exotic Enhancement cores that are sent to the Postmaster will appear in the Postmaster's inventory as exotic engrams with 0 power. And collecting this engram is intended to only award a single enhancement core, and players should be aware that they are not missing out on a real exotic engram reward. So that's something going on in the game right now, definitely bear it in mind. They also say they're tracking issues where the Adept Mag mod does not grant bonus reserves for Soulless Scar, an inaccurate quest node that'll appear in the Proving Ground strike on Step 5 of Challengers Proving, and players will instead need to launch into the strike from above the strike node to access the activity. That one kind of confused us the other day, but they say they're continuing to investigate reports of issues with Steam Chat, the 2020 Guardian Games class items no longer honouring placements from the previous games, and the Ether Ritual public event may not record event participation. They also point out that TWAB today was pretty early, but they should return to the normal afternoon Pacific release time next week. And, of course, considering we've had a few issues, Trials is expected to return at the daily reset on Friday, so bear that in mind as well. A couple of final bits to round up right here before we end the video, but some players have pointed out on Reddit that a couple of potential upcoming exotic catalysts do have triumphs to actually acquire them. And so for example, we know that the Heir Apparent catalyst is going to be featured for Guardian Games later on this season, and so there is a triumph to defeat opponents with the weapon in order to actually unlock the catalyst. But a couple of other ones that are currently appearing in the database include Devil's Ruin and Bastion. And it's interesting because while Bungie do add different catalysts to the database as kind of placeholders, we don't always get them in the game. However, these ones have specific triumphs associated with them. So, of course, that just increases the potential that we are actually going to see those catalysts in the future. Of course, not confirmed, but the database at least tells us it is a possibility. And right here, following the Stasis patch that we had earlier on in the week, Some players pointed out that Shadebinder's projectiles now are tracking very aggressively. So Kevin Yanis from Bungie did say, "We know about this and are monitoring it. We did see it internally, but because of the tight deadlines, decided it wasn't worth the risk of changing and potentially destabilizing the patch. We'll continue to look at Stasis across the board and have tuning changes planned for future updates." So they are aware of that aggressive tracking right now, and there's a plan to update it in the future. Also, Bungie help tweeted, and they said that the rival ghost shells from Guardian Games 2020 have now been re-enabled and players can equip them again, but at a later date they will ship out a fix for players who had their upgraded rival ghost shells dismantled. So if you had an upgraded one that just vanished, it is something that Bungie say they can fix in one of those future updates. Bungie also said that the game security team has swung the ban hammer once again, and so over the past couple of days they've been banning a bunch of players who are known to have been cheating, and they say play fair, we're watching. And it's interesting because last weekend we actually saw record amounts of players jumping into Trials of Osiris inside of Destiny 2. And so hopefully moving forward, Trials will be a continually improving situation, and specifically in terms of the quality of the playlist and cheating, it's something they're continuing to work on, and they've also said they're continuing to roll out DDoS protection for consoles. But finally right here, there is a Prime Gaming bundle for this month. So if you own Amazon Prime and Prime Gaming, you can obtain the Huckleberry exotic bundle for D2, and that includes the exotic SMG, but also the exotic weapon ornament, the Devil's Work, as well as the Sanctified Vigilance Ghost Shell and the Bicameral Promise legendary ship. So all of those items now available via the Prime Gaming bundle, and that is linked in the TWAB, which is linked in the description box below. But for today guys, that's everything we have to round up in this minor TWAB update. So as always, I hope you have found the video useful, and if you have, a rating down below very much helps us out. As always, feel free to give us any of your thoughts down in the comment section on the subjects we've touched on in the video, and if you want to be kept up to date with the world of Destiny 2, then feel free to hit subscribe and I will be sure to keep you posted. But otherwise guys, I hope you have an awesome day.
I issued a challenge to Kaido. We each send forth a warrior to represent us.
You willingly enter my Imperial land tank. You honor me. Fight well or die quickly. Now, the final trial. Battle against the champion of the Cabal. Let the rite of proving commence.